Everyone is feeling as energized by that kind of pulsating music as I am, and as excited to talk about Bentley's Master's in Business Analytics as I am. I'm Emma Emmer. I am Director of Strategic Programs here at Bentley, and I'm really, really excited to be joined by two extraordinary colleagues for this conversation, Dr. Luke Cheverny and Diana Sunder. I'm going to let them introduce themselves in just a moment, but just to orient you all, we're here today to talk about our Master's in Business Analytics program. Luke and I are going to have a conversation about that program for probably about, let's say, 25 or so minutes. And then we'll have Diana talk about the mechanics of the admissions process. And then we'll have ample time for you all to ask us really awesome questions about the program and things that you're particularly curious about. As we're talking, though, I hope you'll use the Q&A feature on your screen to let us know what you're curious about so we can make sure to either integrate answers to your questions throughout the presentation or get to them during that Q&A timeframe. Certainly, though, know that we are going to get to all of those topics I just mentioned. So if you have a burning logistics question about the admissions process, let us know, but likely Diana will cover it. So with that, Luke, I would love to start by you introducing yourself and pronouncing your name correctly, which I completely bungled earlier. Clearly early morning here in Boston. So Luke, if you don't mind introducing yourself, that would be awesome.
Thanks, Emma. Great to be here, everyone. I'm Luke Cerveni. I'm a professor in the Mathematical Sciences Department, and I teach a handful of the graduate courses in our MSBA program. A lot of the time, the quantitative analysis class, I teach machine learning, time series analysis, data science a couple times. And I also have the pleasure of being the director of the Master's in Business Analytics program, and that's why I'm here today.
Awesome. And Diana, if you could introduce yourself too, that'd be awesome.
Sure, yeah. Good morning, everyone from Boston. My name's Diana Sunder. I'm one of the assistant directors of graduate admission here at Bentley. So I am very likely the one who will be reading your application if you do decide to apply for the MSBA program. So thrilled to be here with you all today. I'll try to go through everything of the admission stuff. So I would save your questions for after that. And then if there's anything I haven't touched on, more than happy to explain it.
Awesome. Great. Well, with that, let's jump into this extraordinary program. Luke, we always have so much to talk about when we get a chance to sit down and talk about the MSBA. So certainly want to make sure we spend lots of time here. So for those of you who have not done a lot of research on our MSBA program yet, I'm hopeful that you'll walk away with an understanding of at least these four things that are on the screen. Luke and I are likely to talk about a lot more than this, but certainly want you to really understand what makes Bentley's MSBA distinctive. And some of that, spoiler alert, has to do with the faculty teaching in the program. So we'll spend some time there. I want to spend a lot of time talking about experiential learning and the way that you engage in the classroom here at Bentley, because that, again, is also really differentiated from some other programs that you might find. I also want to talk about what careers folks get as they transition from this program to beyond. Luke actually, and I'll throw the link in the chat in a moment, wrote or was interviewed for a really amazing article about what types of careers folks go on to after a business analytics degree. And so want to spend some time talking about that, because I'm certain that all of you on the line here are thinking about this program in relation to your career and where you hope to go. And then finally, I want to talk a little bit about how you can take this program in lots of different ways that maybe fit into your broader life. We know you are all adults who have lots of different pulls on your time, and we want to make sure that this program fits within your schedule. So with that, Luke, I want to start something you and I have talked a lot about as we've talked about the MSBA, is that there are a lot of analytics programs out there. You can do business analytics, you could do data science, you could do marketing analytics. There's just kind of a proliferation of programs that have the term analytics in them. And even with that, Bentley's program really stands out as being different than what you can get other places. And I would love for you to talk about why you believe Bentley's program is different, and what does Bentley's program offer that maybe some of those other degrees do not?
No, that's a great question. And let's start with the big picture. Just what is analytics? And as Emma was asking, how are we kind of positioned in the whole analytics graduate offering space? So first, analytics is using data to drive insights. You're trying to solve problems by using statistics, statistical modeling. There's a lot of communication and soft skills that come into it, um, business skills, domain expertise, and of course, software skills. And business analytics is in particular using all of this to solve business problems. And so usually, sometimes MSBA programs will be housed in a management department or a marketing department, and that flavors them in one direction. You have data science programs out in the graduate sphere that might be a lot more emphasis on software skills. Where we land is, I like to say that we are more technical than a lot of the MSBA programs, but softer and more applied than a data science program. And that's really a feature of the university and the department that we're housed in. So Bentley, of course, is a leading business school, and so everything has a very applied business focus to it. And then our MSBA program in particular is the oldest in the Boston area, one of the oldest in the Northeast. And so it was launched in the mathematical sciences department, whereas people starting up these days would not take that route. So it's actually taught by applied statisticians at a business university, and that's something very special to us. Then, of course, we have all the different elective clusters that let us bring in all the expert business faculty around the department, so you can specialize in something. You're not just doing analytics. It's like, I'm going to do marketing analytics. I'm going to do financial analytics or health data analytics. Or we have a more technical route for those who do want to take a data science direction.
Yeah, Luke, what I think that you're pointing to that's fascinating about Bentley is that, as you said, we are a business university. Our school is surrounded by folks that are thinking about business. However, this program benefits from the fact that we also have a robust arts and science faculty here at the business university. So you're getting those fundamental applied statistics skills within the mathematical sciences department, but then you get to also apply what you're learning, as you said, in areas of interest, leveraging business faculty or computer science faculty or others that are also teaching at the university. And you all are working together to create this program that's not kind of an add-on. Like, it's not like, oh, your marketing becomes an add-on. You guys have created this together to create a really comprehensive program. Luke, help me think about there's recently I spoke to a recent graduate of our program who shared this quote about her time at the MSBA, where she talks about kind of what you're describing, this balance of technical skills, the analytics, as you said, deriving insights from data, but melding that with ability to communicate and how that makes her really marketable on the job market. Help me understand, why is that different than maybe in some programs? And what is the focus of the MSBA that allows you to have, as you noted, this melding of kind of hard technical software analytical skills with softer communications and presentation skills?
Yeah, so again, because we have applied statisticians whose interests are in the business world teaching the programs, they have the ability to both bring in the technical tools, the oomph, and teach the analytics at the depth that it deserves. But then because they also have the business background, we kind of flavor all the courses to the deliverables will have more presentations, reports, and when I teach classes, it's more like, okay, here's your situation. Your client is going to be maybe it's someone with a non-technical background, and you have to develop a presentation. You have to go take the data. It's on you to do the analysis correctly, and you report it back to a client, a manager who doesn't have a technical background. Or maybe I'll say, okay, this presentation to the class, you can assume that it's like colleagues who do have a technical background. And so we go through lots of these exercises. It's very far away from, maybe you're not at business school. It's more of like the, number one, number two, go prove this or drive this inequality or whatever. Our assignments are not like that.
Yeah, that's super interesting to hear. Luke, you spoke a little bit about kind of what your classroom looks like, and we'll get into that more. Luke has some extraordinary projects that have come out of his class. I'd love for you to talk a little more. We've been talking about these amazing applied statisticians that teach in the program and that form that kind of business analytical foundation for folks in the program. Tell me a little more about your fellow colleagues and what are their foci and what are they bringing into the classroom that you think is particularly compelling?
Yeah, oh, we have an amazing department. Mathematical sciences is a blend of mathematicians, statisticians. We have a couple actuaries, and everyone who is in mathematics has taken a more applied turn, or we have a math background and then got interested in data science. So, a couple of examples. I'm one of them. I think you have a slide here, two more of them. Noah Gian Zaracusa was also a excellent mathematician who now does some writing. He just published a book. Actually, he's on tour right now promoting it called Robin Hood Math. Before that, he wrote a book on deep fakes and how they're influencing the landscape these days. And he has taught our data mining class, data science class at times. Nathan Carter is another mathematician who took a data science turn. He's written in the data science sphere. He's also, very importantly, hopefully we'll talk about this more later, he's the director of the Bentley Center for Analytics and Data Science. And you would get to know him in that capacity in several ways. On the statistics side, we have a lot of faculty interested in the healthcare domain. That's absolutely huge in Boston. And yeah, and then broader across campus, we have very strong marketing faculty, very strong finance, management. All of these come into play in the elective clusters.
Awesome. Well, Luke, let me take that advantage of what you just said about elective clusters. And I want to hear more about that. So there's this idea of, as you're saying, there's kind of, you and I have talked a lot about kind of analytical fundamentals or what we're going to call table stakes in analytics. I would love for you to talk about how our curriculum builds that for folks, but then also lets them specialize. And then, because I always have to ask three questions at once, if you could also talk about how you think that benefits our graduates from a kind of career perspective, the ability to have both these fundamentals and specialize, that would be awesome.
Yeah, so when you start digging into the curriculum, it is a 10-course master's. 7 of them are required. Okay, so at the very core, there's a sequence of statistics, applied statistics, and statistical modeling courses, and then several other courses, applied optimization, time series analysis, um, and several software classes. We've got the database class, and then a managing with analytics class. So these are all, like Emma said, kind of consist of what is table stakes to get into analytics at all. Like, if you don't have these skills, you probably shouldn't be calling yourself an analyst, or you won't do excellent on the job market. But we'll definitely get you to that level. And then what makes you stand out is the ability to distinguish yourself in a certain directions. Like, you've got those table stakes plus domain expertise. The remaining 3 classes in the curriculum are electives, and you can take them in certain clusters. So you say, okay, I want to do analytics in marketing. I want to do analytics in finance. Or there's a data science cluster, which is quite popular. That's kind of like, you want to take a more technical route. You might take a couple more computer classes, develop your programming skills, take a machine learning course. So all these let you develop expertise. And I should add, there are a couple of electives that are very important that fall outside of these clusters. We have a lot of students that do very interesting internships, and you can do internship for credit. We also have an MSBA project course. We don't call it a capstone because it's not required, but every year we'll have a industry client come in, and they kind of give the group of students, the whole class, a project. Teams of students will work on this under the guidance of a professor, and then every other week, they report back to the client with results. So we had Fidelity a couple years ago, Massachusetts court system, trying to get the Boston Celtics in there for next year, but no promises yet. So yeah, all of those will also give you elective credit, and some of our students also do research with faculty. So I mentioned Nathan; he has funding through the Center for Applied Analytics and Data Science, and so students will do research projects. Another colleague, Moinak Baduri, he's outstanding at time series analysis. I know some of our MSBA students have published papers with him recently, so that can count for elective credit. Okay, I think I answered 1 out of 3 of your questions.
No, this is why I should not answer multiple questions or ask you multiple questions in a row. Luke, help me understand. So we've now talked about a number of ways that the MSBA sets folks up for success on the job market. So we've talked about this melding of kind of hard technical skills with soft kind of communications presentation skills. So the benefit of being in a math department within a business university.
Mm-hmm.
We've also talked about now the benefit of having these kind of table stakes analytical skills, plus the ability to specialize in a field. Help me think through how those two things kind of meld together to create successful paths for our students. Or maybe, I don't know if you can think of an example of a student where that really played out for them. So not only did they have the ability to do the analytics, also communicate it, but then had a specialization that led them to a really interesting career path.
Yeah, well, this is, I mean, ultimately, I think everyone's here because they're trying to launch careers, get jobs at the end of the day. And, you hear these stories about, oh, they're getting hundreds of applications for this one position. And I see sometimes students think that, well, it's just, they're picking someone at random. And, sometimes you have those table stakes, sometimes not. The thing that rises you to the top and lets you succeed on the job market is having that domain expertise. From day one, we have different resources to help you think about what direction you want to go. And so when you get to the job market, you say, okay, I know all about, the healthcare industry. And I did an internship in this direction. I've taken my electives in this direction. I've been doing networking events in this direction. And that's what makes your resume rise up to the top. And I should have added, Emma, you mentioned soft skills. Well, the elective clusters help develop the domain expertise. Internships do that. The soft skills, we have all types of resources on campus that go beyond the MSBA program. Just our graduate career development office is outstanding. And they'll have all types of networking events or just activities to develop these soft skills, to look at your resume, to develop your elevator pitch, look at your LinkedIn, help you prepare for interviews, all of this stuff.
Absolutely.
And that brings together the full package that, as I said, lets you get that job when you graduate that you want.
Awesome. Luke, let me ask you a really specific question about the curriculum that I know a lot of students often have, which surrounds kind of what softwares are what pieces of software, what technologies, what computer programming languages are you engaging with within this program? Because I know folks really want to think about what are they then applying when they leave the program. Can you give us a sense of the types of kind of more technical skills folks are building, and specifically what are they engaging with?
Okay, sure. So I'm going to leave off some of the ones that are kind of assumed, or people come in with Microsoft Office and the whole like Excel. Okay, so beyond that, we teach several of the required courses in R. It's a programming language specifically made for statistics. We don't use it so much in the sense of like you're writing 200 300 line programs or anything. It's more of just a convenient language where a lot of the statistical tools, modeling tools are all built into it, so we don't have to do a lot of package management. So we use R, Tableau, will make an appearance in the Managing with Analytics class, and we have different extracurricular opportunities to get certificates. So Tableau or Power BI also comes with a Bentley email address. And then in the database class, you will learn SQL or SQL, as many people call it. Those would be the big three in the required curriculum. Then if you take the data science elective cluster, you would in several classes learn Python, or like I teach the machine learning class that is Python based after you've taken data science, or there's a data-driven development with Python course that you can take in computer information systems. The difference there is, so there are MSBA students who graduate and go into analytics, and you don't have to be a programmer. So our core is set up in that way. Like if you use Tableau, SQL, Excel skills, you can go in analytics and be more on the management side, client facing. But then if you are interested in, getting a little more technical in the computer software direction, we have all the expected Python courses, and then statistical modeling courses that are taught in Python, but that is not required.
Awesome. So sounds like it's one of those, we're going to make sure you have the tools you need to absolutely be a strong analyst. And if you want to go beyond that, you have ample opportunity to do that should you so choose.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, Luke, let's talk about kind of, you pointed to the fact that folks are building their skills not only kind of in these technical classroom experiences, but also through a lot of experiential learning. You talked about a project-based course or internships, or we talked about Nathan's center. And so I would love for you to talk about how those kind of experiential type learning opportunities are woven throughout the MSBA.
Oh, it's a regular, day-to-day, week-to-week thing where, taking the MSBA is not just a bunch of separate courses. It's an experience. So, we have a graduate student association, the Bentley Analytics Society, that will, organize social activities for the analytics students. They'll bring in recent graduates in like an informal way. So you just get coffee chats, get someone just a couple years older to maybe, give you some advice, talk about their job search experience. The things Emma has on the slide here. So these are just looking over them. So the DraftKings case analysis, that's just one example of what Nathan Carter puts together through the Center for Analytics and Data Science. We have part of that is a workshop wing. And I'd say every other week we try to have some type of workshop where it could be a company comes in and talks about what they do. DraftKings was one example. Their recruiter came to campus, just talked through one of the technical cases that they put on their interviews, and that was outstanding. Sometimes we have some graduates come back, talk about just the directions their career have taken. Sometimes we have some of our faculty talk about just a new hot topic. We do little mini competitions. Yeah, different networking events. There's a broad range of things we do. In the middle, there's this is what I was talking about with like different opportunities on campus to go a little bit further than the required courses with certifications, and there's opportunity to earn a Tableau certification. And then on the right, so I think this is a photo from Analytics Without Borders, which is a giant conference that rotates between some big schools in the Northeast every year. We actually hosted it this past year. And that's an example of kind of like going beyond Bentley. Just this is a great region for analytics and networking. And so our students will participate in Analytics Without Borders, Data Science Day, and a handful of other annual conferences or just different one-time events that come to the Boston area. They engage in the big competitions, poster competitions, hackathons. Sometimes they do quite well.
Yeah, absolutely. Luke, help me, something else we've talked a lot about is even within, so that's these are all great examples of outside of the classroom, lots of ways to kind of as you said, expand your horizon in analytics. Within the classroom, I know I hope I'm recalling correctly that in the class you taught last fall, it ended, and you kind of pointed to this with a case competition that folks were able to participate in. Bring us into that experience, and why is it important for our students to have both in and outside the classroom experiences presenting cases or doing this kind of learning? And why does Bentley set up our curriculum this way?
Yeah, I completely forgot about. I'm forgetting about so many things. I can't even remember, the cool things I did in my own class. So I'm doing it again this fall in machine learning. Bentley has a center called eHub, Entrepreneur Hub, and they have all types of resources and competitions, like rounds of funding to help students try to launch business ideas. They also have a faculty grant for faculty to bring some of this entrepreneurship into their classroom. So I got that last year, and I'm doing this fall. Where in machine learning, the final project is that teams of students will develop a pitch for an AI powered phone app. Okay, and so they're graded on both the business plan, just like, where is this in the marketplace? What's your competitors look like? How are you going to make money? And then the presentation. I actually had some external people come in, some of my friends or people we've worked with to be the judges. So think kind of, Shark Tank-ish. And the other side is the technical part. Like you have to have at least proof of concept that the AI behind the app will work. And yeah, it was a terrific experience. We're running it again.
That's amazing. Luke, let's talk a little bit about AI actually now that you mentioned this, right? So you're leveraging AI in this kind of experiential learning experience. How is the MSBA integrating AI into the curriculum? Obviously, it's a huge part of the business landscape as well as analytics. Help us understand how the curriculum is evolving to meet the moment.
That's the $1 million question. Like everyone is thinking about how AI is, changing the workplace, changing education, and we talk about it every single day. Um, I think it's, you know, AI, at least the way we treat it is a tool like many other tools. A computer came along, internet calculator came along, and they just revolutionized things. And you have to figure out, okay, what's the classroom going to look like after that? So we are, nothing's going away in terms of you still need the domain knowledge, you need still statistics skills, like everything before is just you're going to use AI also to make you more efficient. And if you don't know how to use AI as well, uh, you're not competitive, I think. So that's the way that it's kind of appearing in the classroom. It's like, okay, well, instead of, learning, for instance, Python from scratch or something, now you've got kind of an AI assistant that can help you write code, explain back what's wrong with your code, make suggestions. And so I know Nathan does this all the time in the data science class. You kind of have like a back and forth dialogue. And at the end of the day, you're doing the same things as before, but you're more efficient and you can probably go farther.
Yeah, that's fascinating. I think one thing I just want to show the group that I think you all will find interesting is this idea of how analytics, technical skills, and AI are really shaping the employer landscape and how the MSBA is like perfectly positioned to make you successful. And so really what you see here is this was asked of a group of corporate recruiters. This is very recent. It's from 2024. And it says, what are the current skills that you're looking for when you're recruiting folks from business backgrounds? And what do we think is going to be important in the next 5 years? And you can see the difference between the two lists. The thing that has stayed the same is that strategic thinking and problem solving. That's what Luke is talking about, this kind of business acumen that we're still teaching. We're allowing you to keep adaptable, having your communication skills. What's shifting is the real need to have technological skills, to be able to use AI, to be able to innovate. And I think that's where I would argue, Luke, the MSBA is like so fascinating in its positioning because it allows you to keep those fundamental business skills, as you said, also the fundamental analytical skills, but prepares you to be nimble in leveraging new technology and leveraging AI to make you successful in the workplace. And so our graduates, I would argue, are going to have be a bit of a step ahead of others in that they're not just focused on those AI skills, which again, not the only thing folks are focused on, but they become really well-rounded in their positioning with employers.
Yeah, 100%. The skill with AI is it's becoming an expectation on the job market, and we're very aware of that. I would say like it's I just want to argue with lists like that. You look at, number 15 or 17, it's like, oh, time management skills are like number 17.
They're no
I
longer
think like
important.
everything on the list is important, and we address it. The takeaway was just like how important AI is becoming.
Yeah, no, absolutely right. We don't know the relative weights of these things. They might be very, very close, all true. And I think really the takeaway for me is we're going to build these skills across the board for you, and there's no focus on only one or the other.
Mhm.
There's a wonderful question in the chat or in the Q&A that I want to ask Luke, because we've talked a lot about the need for technical skill. And there's a question of what can prospective students do to be better prepared for these technical aspects? And I'm going to add, they did not ask this, but what if you don't come from a technical background? Can you be successful in the MSBA?
Oh, 100% yes. So, students coming into the program, some people might have taken, math or stats backgrounds, engineering programs, but we have people switching careers, or they have more of a softer business background and they're starting analytics from scratch. I think that is the expectation. Okay, so when we start out, learning about SQL, learning, R and everything, the assumption is that you're opening these tools for the first time. Okay, and our job is to take you from that point to when you graduate. Our goal is to get you a job. Okay, if we can't get you entry level jobs in analytics, what's the point of the program? So
I think it's a great point.
yeah,
And
yeah.
Luke, I would argue, and you tell me if you think this is true, I think our faculty we not only say that, but we really live that. I've watched your colleagues invest extraordinary amounts of time in supporting folks in really understanding these tools, giving a lot of their time to make people successful. Can you tell me a little bit about that? Like Greg comes to mind a lot for me with that. Tell me a little bit about how our faculty are supporting folks in being successful in that way.
Yeah, Greg Vaughn, another of my colleagues, he's absolutely tireless. I think we have a lot of tireless faculty. No, it's just not just our job, it's what we love. So we got into this because we both, love statistics, love analytics, but also because we love teaching and, bringing them together. We're excited to talk about this stuff with, excited students nonstop.
That's
I
amazing.
want to make sure I answer the previous question. So the question from the student was, what can they do to help prepare for the
Yes, if there's
program?
anything ahead of time that they should be doing, you certainly answered the great point of you don't
Yeah.
need to, it sounds like. But if you want to do something to be prepared, is there anything you'd suggest?
Um, First and foremost comes, I think, the business statistics and just making sure that we're going to talk about this a little later with Diana, I think, but there's a foundational course in managerial statistics. Just having that foundation very strong would help with all the courses. First day you set foot on campus, and then nothing is really off limits, like all this like Coursera stuff, or you see LinkedIn opportunities, just learning about the analytics universe, or taking little mini courses. Those are not off limits. Like everything's going to help. So yeah. I
I
say
would,
go for
it,
whatever.
it makes a lot of sense to me, Lou, because I would argue something I've heard you and your colleagues talk about is what makes a student really successful in this program is a deep curiosity and a desire to learn a lot and apply analytics to business. And what you're describing is just like having a curious mind before you start is really going to set you up well. What's your reaction to me saying that?
No, that's such a great point. Just like, who is this program right for? You're interested in data, okay? If you say like, oh, statistics, and you kind of get scared, well, it is working with data, it is working with software. You don't have to be a programmer, but these things should excite you. And then beyond that, just the hard work, the enthusiasm. I think that's probably the most important trait, and just like the perspective to know, like, I want a career in analytics. You're probably looking ultimately for a job title that has analyst in it some way. uh, I think Emma's getting ready to follow up on this, but it would have analyst in it some way, business analyst, health data analyst, something like that, or possibly data scientist.
That absolutely, Luke. And I just put the article that we kind of alluded to earlier in the chat, where Luke talks through some of these analytical titles that our graduates have gone on to get. And both Luke and I know literal students who hold these titles at really interesting places across both the kind of regional area, but as well as globally. I do want to make sure we transition at this point to talk to Diana a little bit about the admissions process, because I think there's a lot of you on the line who I hope are compelled to want to do this. So, Diana, if you could tell us a little bit about what does it look like to apply and what's the timeline, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. Thrilled to talk a little bit more about that. So, the first thing we want to think about is just what are the application requirements? Obviously, if you have not applied yet, these are things to start beginning to think about, and I'll also touch on the timeline in just a few slides. So, our application requirements are pretty straightforward. We do want a current resume. Now, for MSBA, I would strongly suggest that you really look through your resume and make sure any of your quantitative analytical experience is being highlighted. Now, some of you, if you've worked in those fields, then amazing, it's going to be easy for you. Now, for many people, they have not necessarily worked in those fields. So in that case, I would really think deeply about like, have you done any data work, even if it's not a main job function? Have you been organizing any kind of data? Have you used any statistics in your work? And make sure to emphasize that on that resume, even if it's a smaller, something smaller that you worked on. Um, Also, please do include your LinkedIn profile if you have one. If you do not have one, I would definitely consider making one. They are really helpful in our job market. So those are definitely great things to include. The other thing, sort of following up on this conversation about what things people can do to prepare, one thing I see a lot is that if you're doing these like Coursera things, LinkedIn Learning, if you're taking, there's all kinds of interesting certifications out there where you can learn about statistics, learn about data science, just they're sort of introductions to these concepts. If you're doing those kinds of things, there's lots of these great free resources. Put those on your resume. It's really helpful, again, to show us that intellectual curiosity, that desire to learn more. So it's a kind of a win-win for you. You get to learn a little bit of an intro on that subject, help just get you familiar with some of the terms, and you can show that on your resume that you've put some time invested into learning about these subjects. And even if it's a free course or certification, you're absolutely welcome to and encouraged to include that. All right, so one letter of recommendation is required. Now, I often get questions about should this be someone who is a professor? Should it be academic recommendation or a professional recommendation? We can accept either. For folks who are working, I would recommend trying to get a professional recommendation if you're able to. It's really great for us to see that you've been successful in your current position. For folks who are right out, absolutely fine. If you're still building that relationship at your company and you know you have a professor who's going to say great things about you, we'd love to include include that. You can include more than one letter of recommendation if you would like to. What I would say is don't stack them up, meaninglessly. But for example, if you're a recent graduate and you have a professor you know is dying to say amazing things about your hard work in the class and your curiosity, and you have a, new manager who's really excited about the work that you've been doing, you're absolutely welcome to include both. I don't recommend including personal recommendations. If it's someone who is a family member or a friend or like even a CEO that you don't really interact with, unless they can really speak to your work experience, I would stay away from that. All right, so now we'll talk a little bit about our essays. So we do have one required essay, which is on our application, which is on Business Cast. It is like a business topic essay. We ask you your opinion about a business topic. For this essay, I think it's pretty straightforward. It's really a chance for you to show really that intellectual curiosity, that you have some thoughts about this. You can talk about your past experiences either in school or in the professional workplace and share that with us. Now, optional can mean different things in college admissions, so I want to make sure I explain what it means for each item here. The personal statement for us is optional. However, I highly recommend it. Personal statement is really a chance for you to share with us, like, who am I? Why do I want to be in this program? What has my journey been? What has my academic professional journey been? How did it land me to apply to Bentley's MSBA? What do I hope to gain from this program, and what do I want to do in the future? Now, of course, you're not bound to anything you write in that. We're not going to track you down 10 years and tell you didn't do the thing you said, but it really helps us show that you have kind of a vision for yourself. Like, you know why you want to be in this program. And we hope that you're going to learn lots of amazing things during it, and maybe even your focus might change. But it just shows us that you have kind of a clear idea of why you want to be in this program. One final note I'll say for any essays, please do not use any AI generated writing in your application essays. I read a lot of them. It's really easy to spot. It's not something we're looking for. We're going to be using AI in the classroom, but not in your admission essay, please. All right, so now when we're saying optional, GMAT, GRE are a different category of optional for us. These are really and truly optional. We're really looking at your entire application when we're making the decision. So if you are already preparing for the GMAT, GRE, or you've already taken it, you're applying to other schools where you do need to submit it, absolutely fine to submit it. If you are not necessarily thinking of taking it, it's not something you really necessarily have to do for our application. If you are torn about it, or you're a little concerned about your application, wondering if that may bolster the strength, I would really recommend booking a conversation with one of the admission team here, and we can give you some more specific feedback as to whether it would be helpful for your particular application. But this is an optional that is like really and truly optional. All right, so English language requirements. So of course, our entire program is conducted in English. We have a lot of, in-class discussions, project work, writing. So that fluency is really important. So for folks what I would say is if your university education was conducted entirely in English medium, we are often able to waive that English test requirement. So definitely reach out to us. If it was not, which is definitely the case for many applicants, we do accept basically all the major English language tests. So that's something where I would, again, excuse me, reach out to us and we can share some more information as to whether or not we think you need to take a test, and even give some recommendations for tests if you have not taken one. All right, the final requirement is sending in your transcript. So for any folks who attended university in the United States, this is usually pretty straightforward. You can send us an unofficial copy of your transcript for admission purposes. And then if you would like to enroll, you do have to send us the official copy. Most universities, you can order it pretty inexpensively and have them send it to us electronically. If you attended university, either undergraduate or graduate outside of the United States, we will need a copy of your transcript as well as an international transcript evaluation. So we accept evaluations from any company which is a member of the NACES organization. That's NACES. These basically help us evaluate your application, and they show that your degree is equivalent to whatever the degree is here. Usually we're looking at the 4-year bachelor degree to make sure it's equivalent. So one thing I will say about this, these can take some time to order. Please keep in mind the normal turnaround time for these can be anywhere from like 3 to 6 weeks potentially. So as you're planning your application timeline, we're going to look at the dates in a second. Make sure that you're thinking about this in terms of timing, because we are not able to review your application until we receive this evaluation. And this requirement is a firm requirement for all of our candidates who have any bachelor's or master's or higher degrees abroad. Okay, so now talk a little bit about financing your education, because I know this is a major concern for basically everyone. So first, I'll talk a little bit about the Bentley, what Bentley can potentially offer. So at Bentley, we offer merit scholarships. These are sort of the main funding opportunity that we share. They're awards that are based on your competitiveness within our overall applicant pool. So we're really looking at your entire application and seeing sort of how competitive you look based on the other applicants. We are looking at your professional background, at your academic background, but really at your whole application. We're really looking at everything you submit. Now, most, as you can see, 85% of the students we admit, that is definitely most of the students we admit, are offered some kind of a merit scholarship from us, which is awesome. How much you can get really, again, depends on the strength of your application. So it's kind of hard to give a bit of a range. This is something where if you're really curious about this, you'd like to know more, definitely recommend booking a conversation with our team. And then we may be able to give you a little bit more input as to what that would look like for you personally. One other type of scholarship I do want to mention that we have is something called a graduate assistantship. So for our full-time students who are applying for fall term only, not spring entry, we do have this graduate assistantship where it is a guaranteed on-campus employment opportunity. We're guaranteed up to 15 hours a week of work. Now, this can be really helpful. And actually, the application process for both of these is extremely simple. All you have to do is check a box on your application. Literally just say, I would like to be considered for merit scholarship. I'd like to be considered for the graduate assistantship. And keep in mind that graduate assistantship is only for students who are starting in the fall. Now, there's also all kinds of external funding options, which I definitely recommend people really research thoroughly. Many companies may offer tuition reimbursement. Definitely, if your company does that, that is a really great way to help cut down on costs. And then I would also recommend doing your full research to see if there are any other grants or loans that you can qualify for. There's many organizations out there that are, professional organizations, even sometimes like country-specific organizations, which may be able to help with your graduate education. So really make sure that you do that research. And the nice thing is those don't have any impact on what we are able to offer you. So if we're able to offer you a great package and then you're able to receive from other funding, that is just really helps you keep your overall costs down.
Diana, can I jump in and answer a question that comes up a lot?
Absolutely.
Prospective students will also ask about funding opportunities with professors. That is not something that we line up before you get to campus. Usually you have to take your first semester classes. We get to know you a little bit. And then as opportunities arise, I mean, my colleagues do have different consulting things that come up or through CADs or different research grants, and they can hire people small amounts to do research with them. But it is not something that we line up before you're on campus.
Thank you, Luke. And one more thing I'll note quickly is that Bentley also does offer on-campus employment other than the graduate assistantship. So even if you are not applying for fall or you don't get it, they are extremely competitive. There's lots of opportunities to work on campus to earn some extra funding, which may help go towards your cost of living or education or however you would like to use that funding. But we do have many employment opportunities for our graduate students. All right, so now I'll talk a little bit about the timeline. So we do have two entry terms for our MSBA program. So what we have spring, which the term begins in January, and then fall, where the term begins like right at the end of August, beginning of September. So we have, for both of our rounds, you can see here, we have priority and then like standard deadlines. So priority rounds, I really recommend applying in the priority round if you're able to. We are often able to offer better scholarship packages for folks who apply earlier. Plus, you also have more time in that sense for us to let us know if there's anything else we might need from you. We just have more time in general to help work with you and make sure we have everything you need and that you're best set up for graduate school. So if you are applying for either of these terms, definitely recommend taking a look at the priority rounds. Our applications for spring 2026 and fall 26 are now open, which is great. For fall 2026, actually, we are just going to, in a couple days, we're going to enter a period where the application will be free to submit on BusinessCast from August 20th through the 30th. So that's one thing to keep in mind. So these priority rounds, essentially, like I said, definitely recommend applying for them. Now, if you're looking at spring, the timeline is pretty short. My recommendation is always, even if we're past the priority round time, to apply sooner rather than later. The later you apply in this cycle, we may have offered up many of our potential opportunities, and sometimes even the slots in our programs can fill up if you apply really late in the cycle. So when you're thinking about this, it's always better to apply earlier rather than later. Plus, as I said, we have time to check in with you. If there's some additional information that we need from you, if you're missing a document, if there's some kind of discrepancy, we have lots of time to reach out to you and help you correct that. So, like I said, even with this standard deadline for spring, if you're ready to submit your application in the middle of October, definitely submit it then. Do not wait until December. Those deadlines are the last day you can submit it. So I know some people think like, oh, I should wait until the deadline. I wouldn't do that. Apply early, always apply earlier rather than later. So for our folks who may be international candidates who will be seeking a new F1 visa, you will need to make sure that you are applying by the appropriate deadline for those, because we need time to help you process all the visa paperwork. So for fall 2026, that deadline will be June 1st. So you do have some time this year, but again, I would always recommend applying a little earlier rather than later. If you are here on a current F1 visa, you would be called the SEVIS transfer. You can apply a little bit later because it is less paperwork for us to help you process your visa. Okay, all right. I think that is the bulk of the information on this. One thing I'll just say quickly is that our application is through a program called BusinessCast. It is linked on our website everywhere. So that is basically, that's where you submit the application that asks you all the questions and everything. So like I said, we do have that period to submit your application for free, which is coming up. Definitely recommend doing that. Even if your transcript evaluation or your letter of recommendation is not ready, those can come in later. Sometimes people ask me like, oh, my rec letter isn't ready, so I shouldn't submit my application yet. You can submit the application on BusinessCast, and then we will be awaiting the other materials. Your application will be on hold until we receive them.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Diana. Let's answer a couple of Q&A questions before we go into kind of our last steps. Luke, there was a wonderful question in the chat that I'd love for you to speak to, which is kind of about the balance of theory and practice in the program, and also related to engaging actual employers in the program. And I know we've talked a little bit about that, but if you could help us understand kind of that balance, as well as maybe give some examples of employer projects or opportunities to do employer projects, that would be fantastic.
Okay, let me unpack the questions there. So, opportunities to do employer projects. It could be through consulting projects that CADS receives. Professors would take those on, but then they might hire assistants to work on them. Those are not guaranteed opportunities, but they kind of arise as they do, and we'll send out notifications. The MSBA project course that I mentioned before is probably the best example of this. For instance, our client this spring dealt in classic car parts, and actually had virtually no analytics in his company, or he had bought the company from someone who had established it over a number of decades, and they had not modernized anything. So we had the opportunity to step in different teams and actually start basically from the ground floor up. Just, okay, you've got all these products on eBay. Are they price competitive? You're dumping $20,000 per month into Google ads. Is it working? And
Wow.
so we worked on all those throughout the spring. Then, of course, through the internships, at least 40% of our MSBA students do internships. You have to keep in mind that some students are full-time employed, so they wouldn't be doing internships. And those that do internships, sometimes they do a second one, or they keep the relationship going. So that's all possible.
And then the
Answer all
other
the
question
questions.
was about like theory versus practice. How much are you just learning analytics theory versus how much is what you're doing applied practically?
Oh, I mean, it should all be applied ultimately. I mean, we do want to, go below the surface and talk a little about like why does the tool work and stuff. But at the end of the day, we want you to be able to use the tool in the real world.
Wonderful. So I know we are coming up against time. And so a couple of things I'm going to point to. One, I put in the chat some information about how to contact us if you still have individualized questions or kind of broad questions that we haven't gotten to. Please write to us. We love connecting with you. As Diana has put here, stay in touch with us. Some of this is about like following us on social media, but two really important links here are setting up a student ambassador consultation and setting up an admissions consultation. Student ambassadors are our current students, and they can really speak to the kind of in-classroom experience. Admissions consultations would be with someone like the wonderful Diana to talk about your application. How can we support you through the scholarship consideration? How do you kind of decide if you want to apply for spring or fall? All of those kinds of things are places that Diana can be supportive. And so, as I mentioned, if for some reason we haven't been able to get to your specific question, please set up time with us, shoot us an email, and we would love, love, love to support you. Luke, I would love to end with kind of one last thought for you, which is remind us so that when people are leaving here of two things. One, what makes a successful student in this program? And then two, uh, why should someone come to Bentley?
Yes. So successful students, as I said, are going to be people interested in, using data, using statistics, using software, using their communication and domain skills to solve business problems. You're enthusiastic about this. You're excited to launch a career. Um, we're there for that. And your other question was,
Oh, why should they come to Bentley?
oh, why should they come to Bentley? Of course. Because, well, so the MSBA program at Bentley is positioned to be a little bit more technical, I guess, in the statistics sense. We have, I would argue, a more robust, stronger analytics core than a lot of the softer MSBA programs out there that might be more management focused or so on. But we are a lot more applied than actual data science programs. It's not about the software, it's not about the programming. It's more just, using the data to solve business problems and maximize your employability. And of course,
Wonderful.
then the larger, just, Bentley University is a very well-known business school, and all of our faculty are there because we love to teach and because we have the business knowledge.
Luke, this has been so helpful. Thank you so much for sharing about this amazing program. Our students absolutely love it. You can certainly, if you look at our Center for Analytics and Data Science website, our MSBA website, you can find those student stories. We have some great video of our students talking about their experience. As you continue to explore the program, please be in touch with us. Diana shared the admissions email address, schedule a consultation, continue to engage with us because we would love to support your consideration of this extraordinary program. Thanks, Diana. Thanks, Luke. And thanks everyone on the line. Hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thanks so much, Emma. It's great to virtually meet with you all. Yeah, please feel free to reach out to us. If you didn't get the QR code or you don't see a consult that works for your time on the website, just shoot us an email and I'll be more than happy to help work something out.
Yes.
Wonderful.
Thank you, everyone. Ditto everything. Please reach out if you have any questions at all.
Thanks.